Greetings and salutations! Thank you for lending an ear to the Voice of the Times this Monday, August 23, 2021. For today's editorial, recovery plan should generate green jobs. We support calls for the government to prioritize job generation in its recovery agenda. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian recently said that should be among the priorities in the 5.024 trillion peso proposed budget for 2022. We agree. The government has passed relief measures for households and distressed businesses, but the pandemic continues to damage the economy. Recently, the Development Budget Coordinating Committee again downgraded the economic forecast for this year. The original gross domestic product target was between 6.5% and 7.5%. After two serious COVID-19 surges this year, the outlook is now between 4% and 5%. Unsurprisingly, unemployment has swelled to 7.7%, but that metric only captures those actively looking for work. The labor participation rate, or the share of the labor pool that is employed, is low at around 65%. That means 35% of all those eligible to work are unproductive. In ASEAN, or the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, labor participation rate is about 70%. And earlier this month, the regional bloc launched the ASEAN Green Initiative, or AGI, that aims to plant 10 million trees in a forest restoration program across Southeast Asia. While the AGI is meant to address climate change, it can also be a job-generating program for the Philippines and others in ASEAN. Of course, planting trees require labor. Even though ASEAN authorities were probably thinking of volunteers to do the planting, there is no reason why governments cannot adopt this program to also alleviate unemployment. In the Philippines, the National Greening Program generated 367,195 jobs in 2020, the latest figure available from the project's accomplishment report. Back in 2014, that program generated more than 1 million jobs, although the area planted then was more than 6 times larger, compared to 2020. These numbers support the suggestion made here that the Philippines can, as they say, hit two birds with one stone. Besides creating jobs, a tree planting program also suits other existing initiatives, particularly the Balik Probinsya program, which is meant to encourage people to relocate to their home provinces. A well-funded tree planting program, combined with a job generation component, might accomplish that, as well as retain residents in rural areas with employment opportunities. Our suggested program also would benefit indigenous communities, where unemployment tends to run higher than the general population. Of course, similar greening programs can also be done in urban areas to raise the living standards. The point here is that a green program, tweaked to also create jobs, helps a broad section of society. To restore biodiversity, to be clear, a tree planting program should be aimed at restoring forests. People should plant native trees because foreign species can harm the local environment and become pests. For example, the G. melina, which gained local popularity because it grows fast, is a non-native tree that makes the soil acidic. That is, of course, detrimental to other trees. And like in the animal kingdom, foreign species brought into areas where there are no predators can become invasive. Native trees, on the other hand, would be easier to cultivate. For one, seeds and seedlings can be locally sourced rather than imported. But people should also remember to plant a variety of native trees and plants, such as bamboo, which is technically a type of grass. Monocultures could enable diseases to destroy large areas of forests. A healthy forest sustains life. It can support wildlife, is vital to water supplies, and is effective in capturing carbon from the atmosphere and reversing climate change. The Philippines has an abundance of forest area that needs restoration. Forest lands, including protected forest areas, cover 52% of the total land area, that is 15.8 million hectares. But as of 2010, only 6.8 million hectares remained forested, based on government data. The Philippines used to have 17 million hectares of forested area way back in 1934. Logging, urban development, and even farm expansions have been taking a toll. Reversing that trend will not only benefit the country, the environment in general, and of course, many of those thrown out of work by the pandemic. And that's the editorial for Monday, August 23, 2021. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to our digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and listen to the Voice of the Times.